Good morning, here's Hope from Egypt, and welcome to my channel and a new video. Our subject today is the global warming by Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. On Monday, June 23, 2014, this article talks about global warming data faked by government to fit climate change fictions. Actually, this problem is a serious problem for the whole world, and here in Egypt we are facing the same problem by the government here. They are faking information about the dam that built by Ethiopia. And they say, don't be afraid, we have water in the Nile, and Ethiopia will not stop the water running in the Nile. But actually, the last news in the United Nations, our president said we are facing death when we have no water in the Nile when the dam is complete. So I wanted actually to share with you this article, the global warming data faked by government to fit climate change fictions. We heard all the time stories about melting ice in the North Pole, and the earth is burning by factories, industries, and we are directed to think about something which is not the real cause of the global warming. Here you can see in the natural news, they say when drug companies are caught faking clinical trial data, no one is surprised anymore. When vaccine manufacturers spike their human trial samples with animal antibodies to make sure their vaccines appear to work, we all just figure that's how they do business: lying, cheating, deceiving, and violating the law. It's very dirty. Now, in what might be the largest scientific fraud ever uncovered, NASA and the NOAA have been caught red-handed altering historical temperature data to produce a climate change narrative that defies reality. This finding, originally documented on the Real Science website, is detailed here. We now know that historical temperature data for the continental United States were deliberately altered by NASA and NOAA scientists in a politically motivated attempt to rewrite history and claim global warming is causing US temperatures to trend upward. The data actually show that we are in a cooling trend, not a warming trend. See charts below. This story is starting to break worldwide right now across the media, with the Telegraph now reporting. Number one, NOAA's U.S. Historical Climatology Network, USHCN, has been adjusting its record by replacing real temperatures with data fabricated by computer models. This is a scandal, actually, because the actual historical temperature record doesn't fit the frenzied doomsday narrative of global warming being fronted today on the political stage. The data were simply ordered using computer models and then published as fact. Here is a proof of the climate change fraud. Here is the chart of US temperatures published by NASA in 1999. It shows the highest temperatures actually occurred in the 1930s followed by a cooling trend ramping downward to the year 2000. The authenticity of this chart is not in question. It is published by James Hansen on NASA's website. Number 2. On that page, Hansen even wrote, empirical evidence does not lend much support to the notion that climate is headed precipitately toward more extreme heat and drought. After the Obama administration took office, however, and started pushing the global warming narrative for political purposes, NASA was directed to alter its historical data in order to reverse the cooling trend and show a warming trend instead. This was accomplished using climate modeling computers that simply fabricated the data the researchers wished to see instead of what was actually happening in the real world. Using the exact same data found in the chart shown above, with a few years of additional data after 2000, NASA managed to misleadingly distort the chart to depict the appearance of global warming. Here is the chart. Here's temperature. The authenticity of this chart is also not in question. It can be found right now on NASA's servers. Number 4. This new altered chart shows that historical data, especially the severe heat and droughts experienced in the 1930s, are now systematically suppressed to make them appear cooler than they really were. At the same time, temperature data from the 1970s to 2010 are strongly exaggerated to make them appear warmer than they really were. This is a clear case of scientific fraud being carried out on a grand scale in order to deceive the entire world about global warming. EPA data also confirm the global warming hoax. What is even more interesting is that even the EPA's heat wave index data further support the notion that the US was far hotter in the 1930s than it is today. The following chart, published on the EPA.gov website, clearly shows modern day heat waves are far smaller and less severe than those of the 1930s. In fact, the seemingly extreme heat waves of the last few years were no worse than those of the early 1900s or 1950s. Short-sighted agricultural practices cause more global warming than CO2. Seeing these charts, you might wonder how the extremely high temperatures of the 1930s came about. Were we releasing too much CO2 by burning fossil fuels? No. That entire episode of massive warming and drought was quoted by conventional agricultural practices that clear-cut forests, poisoned the soil with chemicals and blowed the topsoil away. Lacking trees to retain moisture, areas that were once thriving plains, grasslands, and forests turned to desert, unfortunately. Suddenly, the cooling effects of moisture transpiration from healthy plant ecosystems was lost, causing extreme temperatures and deadly drought. Short-sighted agricultural practices, in other words, really did cause warming, while a restoration of a more natural ecosystem reversed the trend and cooled the region. Reforestation is the answer. This brings us to the simple, obvious solution to all this. Unfortunately, we have no forests in Egypt. We have only the Nile, the only source of water in Egypt. If you want to cool the planet, focus on reforestation efforts. If you want to retain moisture and keep your soil alive, you need diverse plant-based ecosystems, not clear-cut fields running monoculture operations. Forests act like sponges that soak up rainwater, and then they turn around and slowly release that water back into the air, moisturizing the atmosphere and keeping humidity levels high enough to support other nearby grasses, shrubs, and plants. When you clear-cut forests, as has been done all across the world to make room for mechanized agriculture, you effectively raise temperatures by eliminating nature's plant-based water retention and cooling system. Industrialized farming, in other words, has already been historically shown to radically increase continental temperatures and warm the region. So why isn't the White House warning the world about the dangers of industrialized agriculture? The answer: because it doesn't accomplish anything that is politically important to this administration. It is far more important to use the false panic of global warming to shut down clean coal power plants. He says US coal plants are far cleaner than China's and drive the population into a state of subservient obedience through doomsday scare tactics. Now we conclusively know the government is lying about global warming. As an environmentalist, I am always, he says, I am always concerned about pollutants and emissions, especially heavy metals being dumped into the atmosphere. But I have also learned over the years that almost everything the federal government aggressively promotes to the public is a blatant lie. Rarely does anything resembling the truth ever come out of Washington, D.C. These people are experts at lying with bad science, he says, hiding their deceptions behind the cover of scientific thinking and making outlandish claims such as saying that anyone who doesn't believe their fabricated data must always believe the earth is flat. Remember, he says, remember the people who are telling you that burning fossil fuels is causing runaway global warming are the very same people who also claim mercury in vaccines is safe to inject in unlimited quantities. Toxins in GMOs are safe to eat. Chemotherapy works great for cancer patients, and that there is no such thing as any food or nutrient that prevents disease. These are the same government people who build massive networks of underground bunkers and caves in complete secrecy, while publicly claiming reapers are conspiracy theorists. Sorry for my English. It's the same government that lied about running inhumane medical experiments on prisoners via the National Institutes of Health, then got caught and had to apologize decades later. If you think this game government is telling you the truth about global warming, you probably need to have your head examined, but not by a government licensed psychiatrist, or she'll does your head full of psychiatric medications that cause you to lose so much of your cognitive function, you will actually start to believe CNN's broadcasts. Yeah, actually, I'm shocked by this article, ladies and gentlemen, because we usually believe anything comes from USA. All the information that NASA make, all the videos, films that NASA presented to us in Africa, in Egypt, we believe it. We never think that these data and these productions are fake. I'm sorry to tell you that, ladies and gentlemen. If you like this article, please give me a thumb up. Share the information to all people who didn't hear such information. And if I will be honored if you subscribe in my channel and activate the bell. I wish you all the luck in the world. Have a good day. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.